Hello everybody, I'm filming today from the polytunnel just to show you what's going on here right now. We've brought in everything that needs to be kept dry. It's not heated at all, probably relatively frost free, although a frost will come in. But as you know, with my plants, I want them to be fully hardy. I don't want them to be shocked because they're being grown indoors and kept indoors endlessly. And then the first time they experience being outside is when you plant them. That leads to plants that are dependent on water and feed and things like that. Whereas I would prefer to have a plant that stands on its own 2 feet. Health-wise. So come along and we'll just have a look. So here I've got the cranberry. You can clearly see they have been eaten by all the caterpillars. This is a brassica, remember? So they've been eaten and I've allowed them to be eaten. So all I'm interested in at the moment is this. I need this to not be soggy. I need this crown of the cranberry to be nice. And here's one with a bud that I can show you. Can you see that bud against my finger? Okay. Now, these won't be watered. They're just going to be left alone. The next thing I've brought in, not necessarily to keep warm and dry at all. This is my Arkangel, my lamium. So this is really important for the early bumblebee queens to feed on. It's a really it's a plant that comes up incredibly early. It is a natural native in our woodlands. And it's also very similar to the other lamium that we stock, which is maculatum. And this Arkangel is yellow. So this is how we grow these. We don't gather seed. Can you see what we've done? This is the parent plant. And because it trails and creeps around, we've buried an element of the stem to produce roots. Once this starts to grow independently, we'll cut it from the parent plant. And that's how we propagate these. Now, the reason I brought them in is because outside you can get high winds and the pots tip over and the babies kind of fall out the pots. And also I've got so many animals snuffling around and interfering. I need these to be ready to sell next year in the springtime. So this is Agastache Liquorice Blue. Beautiful sensory plant. These are actually very young plants and I'm surprised they managed to flower this year. Looking very lovely. We've collected all the mature seed, so hopefully we'll be able to grow a great many more next year. What they're going to do now is they're just going to go to sleep gently and they're going to lose all their leaves. So they're not going to be very attractive. Any insects that want to bury themselves and hide here can do. An Agastache won't tolerate a wet, soggy spot that doesn't dry out. It's not the cold that kills them necessarily, it's being wet continuously. Their root systems just can't tolerate it, as they're a sun lover. What I've got here, I've been very short on these. I've had virtually, I'm down to 2 or 3 mother plants of Rudbeckia triloba. They sat on the pasture. They were the Rudbeckia that didn't like sitting on the pasture for a year, neglected. So it's taken me another year to get them this big into flower. So I've got the seeds available. I'm going to be cutting these seeds and then sowing them in the spring, so that my stock can increase and I can have a nice healthy from that. This is a parent plant. Not quite sure what we're doing with this. Very, very unusual. It's a Phlomis. I think it's Fruticosa. Mediterranean plant, for Mediterranean habitat gardens. I haven't spoken about these yet, because I didn't want to count my chickens before they hatched. We thought we'd lost every single Iris confusa that I had from the previous garden. Again, this was a plant that sat on the pasture and we didn't see it at all last year. I'd got 2 parent plants in large pots. They failed to come up. When they did come up, they were soggy. I haven't seen flowers for 3-4 years now. And this year, finally, we've stabilised the parent plants and we've got some stock. So these are my parent plants, and as you can see, this is an incredibly rare and unusual iris. I won't be selling these in any great numbers. This is an iris that doesn't look like an iris. It has the most beautiful, perfect bearded iris flower, which is the size of your thumbnail. And that is carried on of maybe 4 to 6 little miniature irises on a stem, on an arching stem. They're purple, blues and pinks, very muted pastel colours, magnificent plants. You never see them for sale, very rarely. I will be letting a few go next year, but very carefully. Other things that we've had success with, these, believe it or not, are our babies. And the babies aren't babies anymore. They're coming up to being teenagers. And look, can you see the whitefly? The whitefly is still holding on. Now, my dear friend Inga became adept at taking cuttings from the plants. Can you see with this one? It's coming from the base. So realistically, in the spring, I can cut this off. And it's quite fleshy. So I'll have to phone Inga and find out how she quite managed it last time. And I've got black sooty mould here, so I'll be asking the girls to just simply take these off, because this, if left, will encourage the mould to develop and maybe go on to, you can see this Iris confusa, the leaves have come into this pot and the black sooty mould is climbing now. So I would get these moved and I would get all the black sooty mould that's showing on the deteriorating foliage taken away. This is Melianthus major. Melianthus major smells like peanut butter. So this is a wonderful plant that I can show children. They can have a good rub on the leaf and then you smell. Oh, and it really is peanut butter. Wonderful, wonderful sensory plant. So another success story. I mean, I can't believe I'm giving you all this really good news. This is all really positive because I haven't been sharing all of the worries and failures that we've had here. It's been so tough getting through these first 2 years with no tunnel, with no nursery, with no money. What you haven't realised is we've had to fight to keep the stock going, and not be open. So the other plant I was panicking about is my beloved Hedychium. So Hedychium is a beautiful, beautiful flowering ginger. So this isn't the ginger that you would dig up and eat the root of. The flowers are magnificent. They are either coronaria, which is a beautiful white flower, waxy, similar to gardenia, that really, it could be the size of my hand, or I have a really delightful orange. Again, I thought I'd lost the stock. The key here is to keep them dry, not let them get too soggy over the winter. And then, because they're a plant that likes to grow under a woodland canopy, the smart green covering in this polytunnel, which is a bit of an experiment, I have to say, is meant to give the kind of shade that a temperate forest would give under tree planting. So the light levels coming through, and they appear to have worked. These plants are now healthy. You know, they're looking a bit tatty for this time of year, but that's better than having nothing showing in the pots and just having a soggy mess in the pots. So they're going to be coming forward this year.